All right. Chapter 24, Part 3 Emissions of Arms, the Bubbling of Facts, at Crevices, Fire and Smoke, and Lava of Naked Beings. Out from a crater discharges of bare bodies boiled into fantastic formations. Or, 5 o'clock, morning of December 28th, 1908, violent shocks in Sicily. The city of Messina fell in a heap which caught fire. It is the custom of Sicilians to sleep without night clothes, and from this crater of blazing wreckage came an eruption of naked beings. Thick clouds of them scudded into thin vapors. The earth quaked at Messina, and torrential rains fell. According to Nature, December 31st, 1908, a fall of meteorites had been reported in Spain a few days before the quake. According to the wise men of our more or less savage tribes, the deluge at Messina at the time of this quake fell only by coincidence. No wise men would mention the fall of meteorites as having any relation. There were at the time worldwide disturbances, or rather disturbances, along a zone of this earth: Asia Minor, Greece, Sicily, Spain, Canary Islands, Mexico. But all wise men who wrote upon this subject clipped off everything else and wrote that there had been a subsidence of land in Sicily. It is the same old local explanation. Scientists and priests are unlike in some respects, but they are about equally parochial. Yeah, I think that's the word. December 3rd, 1887, from a plinth of ruins, an obelisk of woes sounded to the sky. It was at Ragagneo, Italy. 900 houses were thrown down by an earthquake. The wail that went up from the ruins continued long before individual cries could be distinguished. Then the column of woe shattered into screams and prayers. The survivors said that they had seen fires in the heavens. In Cosmos NS 69-422, we are told that Professor Agamemnon had investigated these reported celestial blazes, but they were new lights upon old explanations. A blazing sky could have nothing to do with a local geological disturbance. The orthodox explanation was that a stratum of rocks had slipped. What could the slip of rocks have to do with sky fires? We were told that the professor had reduced all alleged witnesses of the blaze in the heavens to one who had told about it with a little seriousness. What had suggested levity to him as to scenes of ruination and slaughter was not inquired into, but the story is recorded as a jest, and it may be all the more subtle because the fun of it is not obvious. Excuse me. About 6 a.m., February 23rd, 1887, at Genoa, Italy, burst a dam of conventional securities. There was a flood of human beings. An earthquake cast thousands of people into the streets. The sky was afire. It was a pour to get out of town. It was a rush in a glare. If at the time of the forest fire a dam should burst, thousands of logs leaping red in the glare would be like this torrent of human forms under a fiery sky. In other places along the Riviera, the quake was severe. In other places was made the statement that orthodox science will not admit, that the sky was afire. See Popular Science News 21-58. It will not be admitted, or it is said to be merely a coincidence. See L'Astronomie 1887, page 137, that at Apt Vaucluse a fiery appearance had been seen, and that then had come a great light, like a Bengal fire, without doubt coincidences. The 16th of August, 1906, and suddenly people living along the road of Valparaiso, Chile, lost sight of the city. There had come a terrible darkness. With it came an earthquake, the splitting of ground, and the roar of falling houses. Intensest darkness, and the voice in this chaos. It was a scream. People along the road heard it approaching. Chile lit up. Under a flaming sky, the people of Valparaiso were running from the smashing city, people as red as flames under the glare in the heavens, screaming and falling and leaping over the bodies of the fallen. An eruption of spurting forms that leaped and were extinguished. This reddened gush from Valparaiso, rising, falling shapes, brief faces, and momentary arms. It was like looking at the vast flames and imagining that spurts of them were really living beings. In Nature 90-550, it is said that 136 reports upon illuminations in the sky at Valparaiso had been examined by Count de Balor, the seismologist. At one stroke, he bobbed off 98 of them, saying that they were indefinite. He said that the remaining 38 reports were more or less explicit, but came from a region where at the time a deluge was falling. He clipped these too. For a wonder, there was an objection. A writer in the Scientific American 107-67 pointed out that de Balor so dismissed the subject without inquiring into the possibility that the quake and the deluge were related. Had he admitted the possibility of relationship, dogma would have slipped upon dogma, and upon the face of this earth there would have been a subsidence of some ignorance. The lights that were seen in the sky, said de Balor, were very likely only searchlights from warships. The whole sky seemed afire. Scientific American 106-464, N. Simmons Meteorological Mag 41-226. William Gaw of Santiago, describing the blazing heavens, writes that it seemed as if the sober laws of physics had revolted. Or, says de Balor, the people may have seen lights from tram cars. Does not matter how preposterous some of my own notions are going to seem. They cannot be more out of accordance with events upon this earth than is such an attribution of the blazing sky of a nation to searchlights or to lamps in tram cars. If I should write that the stars are probably between 40 and 50 miles away, I'd be not much more of a trimmer of circumstances than is such a barber whose clips are said to be scientific. Maybe they are scientific, though mostly barbers are artists. Some of them do consider themselves scientific. Upon July 11th, 1856, the sun rose red in the Caucasus. See Lloyd's Weekly Newspaper, September 21st, 1856. 5 o'clock in the afternoon, at places where the sun was still shining red, there was an earthquake that destroyed 300 houses. There was another quake upon the 23rd of July. 2 days later, black water fell from the sky in Ireland. And what has any part of that to do with any other part of that? If a red-haired girl or a red shirt on a clothesline had been noted here, there would be, according to orthodox science, no more relation with earthquakes than there could be between a red sun and an earthquake. Black water falling in Ireland. Somebody spilling ink in Kansas. The moon turned green. For 2 observations upon a green moon that was seen at a place where an earthquake was going to occur, see The Englishman, July 14th and 21st, 1897. One of the observations was 6 days before, and the other 1 day before the quake of Assam, June 12, 1897. It was a time of drought and famine in India. The seismologist knows of no relation between a green moon or a red sun and an earthquake, but the volcanologist knows of many instances in which the moon and the sun have been so colored by the volcanic dusts and smokes that are known as dry fogs. The look is that dry fogs from a volcanic eruption came to the sky of India, one of them 6 days before and the other 1 day before a catastrophe. The mystery is this. If there had been a volcanic eruption somewhere else, why not volcanic appearances in Italy or Patagonia or California? Why at this place where an earthquake was going to occur? Coincidence. Upon the 11th of June in Upper Assam, where upon the 12th the center of the earthquake was going to be, torrents fell suddenly from the sky. Correspondent to The Englishman, July 14th, writes that this deluge was of a monstrousness that exceeded that of any other downpour that he had ever seen in Assam or anywhere else. At 5:15 p.m., 12th of June, there was a sight at Shillong that would be a marvel to the more innocent of the textbook writers. I tell so much of a clipping and bobbing and shearing, but also there may be considerable innocence. Not a cloud in the sky, out of clear blue vacancy, dumped a lake. This drop of a bulk of water or transportation or teleportation of it was at the time of one of the most catastrophic of earthquakes centering farther north in Assam. This earthquake was a earth storm. Hills were waves, and houses cast adrift were wrecked on them. Out into fields stormed people from villages, and long strings of them in white summer garments were lines of surf on the earth waves. Breakers of them spumed with infants. In a human storm, billows of people crashed against islands of cattle. It is not only in meteorology that there are meteorological occurrences. The convulsions were so violent that there was scene shifting. The people recovered and looked around. It was a landscape. It was at landscapes changed as if a curtain had gone down, then up between acts of this drama. They saw fields, lakes, and roads that, in the lay of the land before the quake, had been hidden. It is not only in playhouses that there are theatrical performances, period. It is not exclusively anywhere where anything is, if ours is one organic existence in which all things are continuous. There were more deluges that will not fit into conventional explanations. Allahabad Pioneer, June 23rd, 1897, extremist droughts, the quake, enormous falls of water. There are data for thinking that somewhere there was a volcanic eruption. Another datum is that at Calcutta, after the earthquake, there was an afterglow. Afterglows are exceptional sunsets, sometimes of an auroral appearance, which are reflections of sunlight from volcanic dust high in the sky, continue to be seen an hour or so later than ordinary sunsets. Friend of India, June 15th. The entire west was a glory of deepest purple, and the colors did not fade out until an hour after darkness is usually complete. Something else that I note is that in many places in Assam, the ground was insipidly volcanic during the earthquake. Countless small craters appeared and threw out ashes. Considering the volcanic and the insipidly volcanic, I think of a relation between the catastrophe in Assam and the volcanic eruption somewhere else. But there is findable no record of a volcanic eruption upon this earth to which could be attributed effects that we have noted. I point out again that if there were a volcanic eruption in some part of our existence external to this earth or upon this earth, it would, unless a special relation be thought of, be as likely to cause an afterglow in England or South Africa as in India. The suggestion is that somewhere external to this earth, if in terrestrial terms there is no explanation, there was a volcanic eruption, and that the earthquake in India was a response to it, and that bulks of water and other discharges came from somewhere else exclusively to a part of this earth that was responsively or functionally quaking because a teleportive current of some kind, very likely electric, existed between the two centers of disturbances. Upon the 25th of June, dust fell from the sky near Calcutta. In the issue of this newspaper, July 14th, a meteorologist employed in the Calcutta Observatory described a most peculiar mist, like volcanic smoke, which had been seen in the earthquake regions. In his opinion, it was cosmic dust, or dust that had fallen to this earth from outer space. He said nothing of a possible relationship with the earthquakes. He would probably have called it mere coincidence. Then he told of a fall of mud upon the 27th of June at Thurgrain. There was a fall of mud in the Jessore district of Bengal night of June 29th. It fell from a cloudless sky while the stars were shining. Suppose it were cosmic dust. Suppose, with the conventionalists, that this Earth is a swiftly moving planet that had overtaken a cloud of cosmic dust in outer space. In 1 minute, this Earth would be more than 1,000 miles away from this point of contact by orbital motion and would turn away axially. But other falls of dust came upon India while the shocks were continuing, as if settling down from an eruption somewhere else to a world that was not speeding away orbitally and to a point that was not turning away by daily rotation. 5 days after the first fall of dust, a substance resembling mud fell at Ghatal. For descriptions of just such a dry fog as has often been seen in Italy after an eruption of Vesuvius, see the Madras Mail, July 5th, and the Friend of India, July 14th. Perpetual haze on the horizon all around, sky covered with thick layers of dust resembling a foggy atmosphere. About the 1st of July, mud fell at Hetamafor, according to the Friend of India, July 14th. I list these falls of dust and mud, but to them I do not give the importance that I give to the phenomenon that preceded this earthquake. I have come upon nobody's statement that they were of volcanic material, but it may be that there were other precipitations and that they were of a substance that is unknown upon this earth. In the Englishman, July 7th, a correspondent wrote that several days before, at Kurda, there had been a shower at night, and that the air became filled with the perfume of sandalwood. The next morning, everything was found covered with a colored matter which emitted the scent of sandalwood. About the same time, somebody else wrote to the Madras Mail, July 8th, that at Nadia there had been a fall from the sky of a substance more or less resembling the sandal used by natives in worshipping their gods. The moon turns green before an earthquake. Torrential rains precede an earthquake. We have only begun listing phenomena that appears before catastrophes. They are interpretable as warnings clipped from events by barbershop science. There was an investigation of phenomena in Assam. It was scientific in the sense that the tonsorial may be the scientific. Dr. Oldham enormously reduced a catastrophe to manageable dimensions. He lathered it with the soap of his explanations and shaved it clean of all unconventional details. This treatment of next to catastrophes is as satisfactorily beautifying to neat little minds as are some of the Marcel waves that astronomers have ironed into tousled circumstances. For a review of Dr. Oldham's report, see Nature 62-305. There is no mention of anything that was seen in the sky, nor anything that fell from the sky, nor of occurrences anywhere else. Dr. Charles Davison, in a study of recent earthquakes, gives 57 pages to his account of this catastrophe, and he, too, mentions nothing that was seen in the sky or that fell from the sky. He mentions no simultaneous phenomena anywhere else. It is a neat and well-trimmed account, but there's a smell that I identify as too much bay rum. Simultaneous phenomena that always are left out of a conventionalist account of an earthquake, one of the most violent convulsions ever known in Mexico, while the ground in India was quaking. There was a glare in the sky, and the Mexicans thought that the glare was volcanic. If so, no active volcano in Mexico could be found. Deluges fell upon this quaking land, one of the falls of water upon a Mexican town, drowning some of the inhabitants, is told of in the San Francisco Chronicle, June 17th. In all this part of our job, our position is not so much denial of data as assertions that the occurrences in which we see relationship were only coincidences. If I ever accept any such explanation, I shall be driven into extending it to everything. We'll have a theory that in our existence there is nothing but coincidence, and, according to my experience with theorists, we'll develop this theory somewhat reasonably. Chemical reactions, supposed to be well known and accounted for, do not invariably work out as, according to formula, they should work out. Failures are attributed to impurities in chemicals, but perhaps it is only by persistent coincidence, like that of glares so often occurring at times of earthquakes, that water appears when oxygen and hydrogen unite. Meteors frequently fall to this earth during earthquakes, but that may be only by coincidence, just as offspring so often appear after marriage, indicating nothing exclusively of relationships, inasmuch as we have heard of cases of alleged independent reproduction. Let the feminists become only a little more fanatical, and they will probably publish lists of instances of female independence. It is either that or our data are not of coincidences, or that everything's a coincidence. As to some deluges at times of earthquakes, there is no assertion of coincidence, and there is no mystery. There's an earthquake, and water falls from the sky. Then it is learned that a volcano, one of this earth's volcanoes, had been in eruption, and that, responsively to it, the earth had quaked, and that volumes of water, some of them black and some of them not discolored, had been discharged by this volcano, falling in bulks or falling in torrential rains upon the quaking ground. Sometimes the sky darkens during earthquakes, and there is no assertion of coincidence, and there is no mystery. Upon March 11th, 1875, for instance, a vast black cloud appeared at Guadalajara, Mexico. There was an earthquake. See La Scientifique, 1876-322. In this instance, the darkened sky at the time of the earthquake was explained because it was learned that both phenomena were effects of an eruption of the volcanic Cocorococo. Cabaracoco. Yes, there have been unmysterious showers of meteors or of fireballs that looked like meteors at times of earthquakes. There were eruptions upon this earth. The fireballs or meteors came from them. There were especially spectacular showers of volcanic bombs that looked like meteors or that were meteors during the eruption in Java, August 1883, New Zealand, June 1886, West Indies, May 1902. But our data are of such phenomena in the sky during earthquakes at times when no terrestrial volcano that could have had such effects was active. So far, we have not correlated with anything that could be considered a volcanic eruption anywhere in regions external to this Earth. Now, we are called upon not only for data seemingly of volcanic eruptions in a nearby starry shell around this Earth, but for data that may be regarded as observations upon celestial volcanoes in action. Hey, shut this off.